Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Damien with White Belt Goons. Today, we are doing the Late Night Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Normally, I have one of my guys here with me, but today I have a very special guest. You are an honorary bro today, Elisha, because normally I have my guy Bryson here. Sometimes I have my guy Chris here. But today, you are an honorary Jiu-Jitsu bro. And it's not necessarily late here. We're doing this around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's all good. So I want to welcome you. I want to welcome you. And I want to thank you for being a part of this podcast. So just kind of give everybody a brief rundown of your jiu-jitsu situation, like what your rank is, if you want to say where you train or in the general vicinity of where you train. And if you're a competitive athlete, if you're a coach, just kind of give them a little bit of a rundown of your bio.
Yeah, so I have been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for, oh goodness, I would say the last almost 5.5 years. And I train at Impact Jiu-Jitsu Sherwood. So that has been my home gym for the last 5 years on all of this. And I got into jiu-jitsu actually because of my fiance. He started a year before me. He's a purple belt at the gym as well. We're both youth coaches on the youth program. And it really started when he started practicing jiu-jitsu on me at home. and it got to the point where I realized I couldn't defend myself any longer. And I knew that was an issue. So I went in and I've been there ever since. I competed super, super heavily as a white belt. I am within the flyweight division here in like the Pacific Northwest. So that's usually about 115, 118 under. It's a very, very small division. But it was so much fun when I was able to compete. In 2023 though, I did take a break from competing after I got into a really bad injury at a competition. And I had what's called straightening of the spine, and I couldn't turn my neck for about like a month and a half. Very serious injury. Did a lot of rehab, and I really just stuck to still going into the gym, but slowing down a bit and making sure, stay healthy. Love coaching, absolutely love coaching the kids, working with some of the youth programs and as well as the women programs. And yeah, that is my background. So that's what I've been doing.
That's a hell of a bio. I respect it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So health-wise, you're good now. You're okay?
Yeah. So I still have some, every once in a while, flare up. Basically, the tendons in my neck went around from my spine, went out and then back in all at once, which completely I couldn't lift my shoulders. I couldn't turn my head side to side. I was stuck for a little bit, which makes driving, doing computer work, my job.
You're doing the Christian Bale Batman turn,
Yeah, I'd be like, trying to do all that. But no, I'm doing good now, and just make sure I always stretch properly before I get in and start rolling.
I think that when you do jiu-jitsu or pretty much any sport, you're aware of the injuries that you can get. Like the common injuries are breaks and sprains or tears. We don't really think about the nerves. When you talk about the muscles of your spine separating and then coming back, it's like those muscles are going to heal and they're going to be fine after, a small amount of time. We don't think about like a nerve getting pinched or, getting like kind of crinked or whatever. And that kind of stuff can have so many debilitating issues and problems that you deal with. And I think that like when I'm at the gym and I see those purple belts and brown belts and those black belts, especially those guys who've been doing it for like, some of those black belts have been black belts for over 20 years, and they just kind of walk with like this lumbering pain. And you just know that it's, a lot of it's nerve issues and other stuff. So I wanted to ask you a question because when I found you on Instagram and kind of saw some of your stuff, we don't think about this as much now, but you being a female in jiu-jitsu, and we talked about this kind of before with school. I was a non-traditional student. I went back to school later in life, and I've started jiu-jitsu later in life. And even though women's BJJ is becoming way more prevalent, it's still a male dominated sport. How do
Yes.
you navigate that culture of being a female, being in a gym around a lot of guys, being in a male dominated sport? Like, what are your thoughts just on being a female student in the sport?
Yeah, of course. No, it's as somebody with I have a dance background. So back in high school, I was a varsity athlete within our dance program, did the dance team, all that fun stuff. So being surrounded by females for, 6 years, to then being within like a co-ed group was different for sure. But you have to just keep an open mind to it because it's part of the sport. And as you mentioned, it's growing. Wrestling now has so many more females within it as well. And so to keep that open mind, it's just, you have to start putting yourself in uncomfortable, quote unquote, uncomfortable situations. I think it was really great for me to have a partner, both my best friend and my actual partner, with it, with me through this process to kind of help along and go, hey, especially when you start learning technique and you start rolling with people, there's always going to be something you can learn. It doesn't matter if you're the smallest person in the room, which I am the smallest one,
Okay.
or if it is, oh, I'm not sure what's going on. Sorry about
You're
that.
fine. You're fine.
I've been having, that's interesting. It keeps doing that. So it's tough because you don't know if you're going to be the smallest person in the room or the biggest one. And being comfortable enough to just go, hey, I can roll with this 300-pound dude, but I'm going to learn how to roll in the best way where I'm not on the bottom. I need to be faster. I need to be quicker. I need to be only going for their neck. I do not have the strength to just do all of that. And I think that's a huge misconception as well with jiu-jitsu, whether if you're a guy or girl, is there's always room to learn.
Yeah.
And as you start rolling with different body types, that's where you learn. So just keeping that open mind, I
When
think those
you
are the biggest differences.
when you talk about rolling with a 300-pound guy, and I think that
What they
when
have.
you said that you have to be faster and you know that the pressure point, no pun intended, is the neck. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, like already on there. What's something that you have learned about yourself in that situation? And I know that sometimes in certain gyms or certain male athletes, they might take it easy or roll light with females. But even
Yeah.
experiencing that, with your weight versus a 300-pound guy or somebody who's extremely advanced, or even worse, that first day white belt that comes in, what have you
Yes.
learned about yourself that's changed in terms of your outlook from actually being involved in this, where most women your size, they probably never experience this?
Most definitely. I think the first thing I first learned was, I'm trying to think of the best way I can put it, is that when you're starting the sport of jujitsu, do not act like you know everything. And even as a female before jujitsu, I was like, I know enough to defend myself. And I was so wrong. I was beyond wrong. Now doing this for 5 years, I'm like, I know there's still more I can learn for all of that. But when rolling, especially with like guys, girls, there's some girls that can put on the same pressure as guys and make my life completely miserable. And I can be stuck on the bottom the whole entire time. And then there's also guys that, as you mentioned, sometimes they're like, oh my God, I'm going to break her. And with with that, I think the best way you can handle it or is just talking with your partner and be like, and let them know what percentage you want them to roll with you at. I think that's for everybody. I don't know if you've ever had that where you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going slow today. I would just want a good flow roll. I don't want to, I'm not going out for ADCC right now. Like, please don't kill me.
Hey, can
And
I tell
having
you
those
something?
conversations. Yeah.
It has literally been I feel like an idiot that I'm about to say this. It's literally
No.
been within the last, I'm going to say 60 days, but it's probably not been the last 60 days, but it's been recently that I've come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And all respect and shout out to my coaches at Team Quest, because day
Yeah.
one, the first time I walked through the door, they were like, yeah, if you want to do this at your age and with your injuries, and at the time my weight, they were like, you're going to have to take this slow. And I'm like, what? I played football. Like, I did this, I did that. I work out. Like, I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to go in there and lay on these little guys. And it's like, I've had all kinds of injuries. And every time that I've rolled, whether it's situational drilling, whether it's just the move of the day, or whether it's open mat, I literally have been going for blood up until like a month ago. Like, I have a separated shoulder right now. I have a
Oh
torn
goodness.
groin. I've got a knee issue. All of these are from the last 2 years. And it's just like, you bang your head up against that wall so many times. And then ultimately, I just realized, like, I have gotten really good at defending. I've gotten really good at surviving. My cardio has gotten better. I've gotten in great shape. But my level of jujitsu has probably advanced that much. And
Yep.
it's because, the idea of rolling for technique and rolling for development and rolling for an understanding of timing, things like that, it hasn't been there. And I feel so bad because I feel like I've wasted so much time. Like, recently I go in and I'm doing before practice or after practice drilling, and it's just all about finding that fulcrum point of where I can tip somebody or where I can sweep somebody. And it's like, I could have been doing this for like the last year, but I've been doing these death rolls, and ultimately it's not going to work out in my favor. I can't keep rolling with these guys like that. So yeah,
It's something I do with the youth as well, and it's so hard to break that fight or flight. That's
yes,
the
yeah,
biggest thing that we always talk about within the youth program is your kids, whether it be kids or actually adults, because that's the reality of it.
yeah,
It's new. It's getting that comfortability with somebody being on top of you and you have absolutely nowhere to go. And
right,
how do you control your breathing? How
yep.
do you plan out your next move? And again, I'm just a blue belt, so
Well, no,
I'm not
of
even as
course, no,
high
no,
up. I'm not as
no,
high up as everybody else, but I've been doing this for a while, and it's something I can say with my full heart is it's learning that self-control.
yeah,
And that's so hard to do, especially when you are an athlete, because all we've known for all these years before jujitsu is you got to push, you got to push, you got to
right,
push, you got to push, you got to go harder, you got to go faster, get better, 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 better. And jujitsu, because it's like a tree. That's kind of how I think about it. You learn one technique and then it goes to 5 other branches.
right,
And it's like, oh, I learned how to do this arm bar, and now I can do, Americana, Kimura. I can start switching all of these from like one position, and then you get to back, you get to mount, you get to tech mount. You start going through all of those, and once you start having those cards in your wheelhouse, and then it's like, oh, I don't need to be the fastest right here, or
right,
actually here I do need to be the fastest.
yeah,
But it all
yeah.
really depends on just who you're rolling with and
I
how
think
you
that, like,
roll.
I think that it's a process of separating what you see from what you've heard
Yep.
from what you know. And those are 3 totally different things. Like, there was a video from, I think it might have been the Atlanta Hawks yesterday on Instagram, and they had brought 5 people from the stands, and they put a mini tramp out and all these mats, and they were like, if anybody can
Okay.
dunk a basketball, you get like $1,000.
All right. All
People,
right.
like, they almost killed themselves. But to the average person sitting in the stands, like watching some guy run down the court, you're like, yeah, just dunk it. Like, just
You got
jump
it.
and dunk
You
it. And
got
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
it seems so straightforward until you have to do it, right? There's so much
Yeah.
that goes into getting your body to do that, even off of a trampoline. And
Definitely.
I told my wife, I said, jujitsu is like learning to sing while being waterboarded. Like, how
I haven't heard of that one. That's good.
like
Learning to
you
swim.
wouldn't even be
Yeah.
thinking about the song. You're like, "Hey, I'm drowning over here." And that's what it's like. And then you figure out, like I saw this video with the Navy SEAL, and they were talking about like waterboard training. They literally train special
Yeah.
operations guys to be able to do that. But it's a way that they control their breathing, control their panic, when to take a breath, when to move their head. And that's what we do in jiu-jitsu. And it's like when you see somebody at a high level, you can't pick up what they're doing. It's so intricate and it's so timing based on what a person feels. And you can't see that. You just see people rolling around. So I think that that's where, like, when guys my age go in, we've been watching so much UFC and pro wrestling and
Like,
fighting
I
movies.
gotta go in and give
You're
it
like,
my
oh, I
all.
need an armbar. It's like, yeah, no, you really don't, you know?
Oh goodness. Yeah. But
What
it's
is
so common.
it,
It's
it
so
really
common.
is. What do you think that from the standpoint of the guys in the gym, what do you think that the guys in the gym misunderstand about the women that are there at the gym in terms of the women that are there to train, their teammates? Like, do you I'm not asking necessarily from your school specifically, but just
Yeah.
jujitsu in general, and this is going to lead to a bigger question here in a second. But what do you think most guys misunderstand about women who are in the sport?
This actually, when I first when I hear this question, it's a hard one. It really is because I do fully believe it is up to each female. So I'm only one mind, right?
Yeah.
I've you know had other female coaches where they're a lot larger than me. They can roll and put on the same pressure as the dudes. And I think what's really tough is that they're actually within the sport, and this is not for everyone,
Of course.
but it can be, there's times where it can still be uncomfortable. Like just rolling with the guy, something happens and like all of the spidey senses go off. And that's not everywhere, but I've had those roles where I've had weird remarks said during the role, and I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like this is not like I don't know if you heard about Craig Jones, his gym and his guys, but I'm like, what's happening? Like this is not our community. That's not our environment. And so and especially when you hear stories like that, you get a little bit more on edge. It doesn't matter how much I know how to defend myself. I know how to choke out another guy or girl. It just is, there's going to be moments that we're still uncomfortable. And I think always saying like, hey, what level do you want to roll at is always going to be helpful. But besides for that, I think it's just a fun time to roll. So
Yeah.
like that, and that's what it really comes down to in this sport is like, you're just train to make yourself better, not to make anybody else necessarily better, unless you're a coach like myself. I want to see the kids program go. And I think the other thing too is just, be aware that like guys and girls, our bodies are different. Like when
Yeah.
we're training, like when I'm training the boys and like our little boys and everything, I'm like, hey, us girls typically don't have as much muscle mass around our shoulders. We can bend our arm way farther and you're going to have to get it way more tighter and locked in
Yeah.
versus like if I try to go after your arm, I'm assuming you got muscles. I kind of see, I've always seen your shoulder build, that
Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
yeah. But that like, oh, okay, if I can get it locked in, I don't have to, with a Kimura, I don't have to go as far when I'm cranking it over. With a female, I'm trying to get the hand to the back of her head,
Right.
So I think hopefully that answered the question as
No, it
best.
does.
It's a
And
hard one. That one is
it
such a hard one.
no, and I think it leads into the main topic, and the bigger question is, currently right now within jiu-jitsu, clearly there's a lot going on,
Yeah.
with some major programs and some issues that have come up. Anybody who's in the jiu-jitsu community can look that up and
Yeah.
understand it without getting into it. But from your perspective as an athlete, your perspective as a coach, and your perspective as a female, how do we address and avoid situations like that? And I think that you've kind of already started it about having the communication um, between the athletes. So the female athlete talking to the male athlete and saying, "Hey, this is where I'm at in terms of how much pressure I want today or how much aggression I'm looking to exchange today." But in terms of some of the more problematic issues that come up in the sport with men and women, how do we address that in terms of the females feeling more comfortable in that environment?
Yeah. So well, you might do you actually, if you don't mind me asking, do you have like an example? Because I, with all of my coaches, and also with
Atos,
like huh?
I said Atos, the Atos situation. Are you aware of it?
I'm actually not. So I won't try to deep dive too much, but I'm not
So
aware of that
just
one.
just to give you a little background,
Yeah.
uh, the Atos gym, I believe, in either Vegas or California, there's a very well-known purple belt. I think she's 21 at the time. I mean, maybe now I think she's 21. She might be even a little bit younger.
Yeah. Wow.
She has accused the head coaches, the male head coach, of inappropriate behavior, kind of what you said in terms of like he would allegedly pull her aside and switch out with her training partners. He would roll with her and would say
Oh,
things, whisper into her ear, would allegedly, put himself in positions
in
that would make
those
her
situations.
uncomfortable. Right. So
Yeah.
he and his wife have left the gym, turned it over, I believe, to their daughter. But then, of course, you have the situation that happened at the other program that you brought up earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think that women who find themselves in male dominated spaces are any stranger to situations like this. So,
Yeah.
from a coaching standpoint, how do we address female students feeling comfortable in a male dominated environment?
Got
Uh,
it. Got it.
Probably the
Whew.
best way to say
How
it.
do we address that? And again, that's a tough one because I think expectations and in that situation, that's really tough because that's your head coach.
Yeah,
Your
very
head
famous
coach,
head, a very famous head.
yeah. And your head coach is supposed to be the one you can turn to. Now, with the Sherwood gym, I've actually had three different head coaches. It's been moved around and passed around because of different, family dynamics. And none of it were bad reasons. It's just as with the two first coaches I had, which was the original owner and then the owner of the Newburgh location had come actually in, or the previous owner of the Newburgh location had said, "Hey, I can step up and do this." Um, Both of those, two are male and amazing family people. Like I've never felt an issue to go to them and talk to them about something. Same thing with my current owner, who also is the owner of the Hillsborough gym. He now owns both locations, the Wrangles, both Anna and Rich Wrangle. And they've been doing this for years as well. So when you have those come up, and I've talked about this with Rich before, it's you make it clear on day one,
Right.
and that's the thing, especially with any females. You make that, whether it be from a female coach or a male coach, you make that clear as day. If you feel uncomfortable, you need to speak up for yourself. Um, Obviously, we can hope those scenarios don't happen. They sadly do. There was somebody at our gym. I've had it happen to me, and I spoke up about it. It's I think the biggest issue is when you don't speak up about something, and that can cause a lot of
Your
apologies.
dogs are speaking.
Yeah, they're speaking up about it. No, that's Goose, my Leonberg St. Bernard mix, downstairs barking. Um, but speaking up about it and making sure that it gets addressed. I think that's obviously, like in that scenario, it sounds like it happened multiple times, and it's hard as a female because you kind of question that. You don't want that to happen. Um, but talk with your other coaches, like talk to your other people, ask like, hey, has this happened to you? And make it aware to your community, make it
Yeah.
aware to the people you're training with. You
I tell
don't
my
have to be
daughters
the odd person out.
Yeah, I have 3 daughters. I told my daughters, like, "Look, there's no easy way to say this. The guy's feelings don't matter in this situation.
Yeah.
So you have to set a boundary and you have to be
Mhm.
very clear that this is not acceptable and it's not tolerated. And either from right there, go wherever you need to go and do what you have to do, or make sure that line's there. And if it's ever crossed again, take the appropriate action. People just have to, and it's easy for me to say this, but my opinion is that people have to feel more comfortable and more emboldened to create those boundaries in those situations, you know?
And
Unfortunately, guys are
that's
stupid and we're
super
gonna
hard.
push the line,
Yeah.
unfortunately, until somebody, in a lot of
Yeah,
situations.
no, but it's so hard, and then we especially I don't haven't seen as many females come in recently for our gym, so that's just my experience. But I have seen females come into our gym and train that have had other things happen. So then that's why we do like a women's only program. That's why we have these girls and gi events, throughout the United States, because we want to say, hey, you have a community here. Like you're not the only female in your gym. Is that normally what happens? Maybe.
Yeah,
But
sometimes.
hey, you have people around you. And like I've met so many people, especially online, that's like, oh, I saw you for 2 seconds competing at Sub League or at Fuji or, ADCC. And I'm like, you're so cool. Like, when's a good time to train together? Hey, you're going to be at this gym or that gym. And that's the other thing with cross training. Like, go out and check. It's
Yeah.
not. It feels weird because when you do find a home gym, that's your home body. Like you're like, this is my comfortability. This is my space. But it's so good to train. I think you had talked about it actually on one of your last podcasts. Go out
I'm
and
a
get that
huge
extra
proponent
cross
of it. Yeah.
training.
Yeah. Well, so the end of the show, I always try to give people an opportunity to ask me a couple of questions. So, I am I'm almost 48. I'll be 48 here pretty soon. Uh, 48. I'm approaching my second year of jiu-jitsu. I am a 3-stripe white belt. Head
Mhm.
coach and owner of the gym is Matt Linland, who was the Olympic silver medalist in 2000, I believe, and he was
Yeah.
the Olympic coach up until 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. And at one point in time, he was the #1 ranked middleweight in the world in UFC. I give that background to say they don't give belts at my school. So people are like, oh man, you're approaching 2 years and you're competing and you're grinding. I see you're going to the gym, 3, 4 times a week, and you're just a
Mhm.
3-stripe. Yep. And that's the way it goes at our gym. You'll get a belt when you get a belt. And
Yep.
I have fought that and I have been frustrated by that, you know, probably up until about the same amount of time that it took me to realize that I need to quit banging my head against that wall, which I think is also part of the process as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you like to know about my journey or my situation? What could I answer for you?
Yeah. So you mentioned you were in military. I half of my gym is probably military or first responders. We have the C4C PJJ program. What have you found, I guess, through what similarities have you found comfort in between your military background and doing jujitsu? Obviously, there's two different levels of, you know, thought and effort, but do you find comfort, I guess, within jujitsu to what previously did in the military? Because I hear that a lot usually is like, oh, I got to hang out with this group of people, or it gives me some stability, or, there's this team environment that we're doing this all together. And then at least, again, that's what I see with my gym a lot is we do this as a team. We're running every drill together.
I think that people who draw that parallel between jujitsu and the military were either A, in the army, B, they were in the Marines,
Yeah.
or C, they were in the Navy. And all three of those branches, based on what they do and based on where they end up, generally your squadron, your unit, you work in close proximity. I was in the Air Force. And
Okay.
so in the Air Force, and at the time that I was in, we were in a peacetime. It was after the Gulf War, and it was before the global war on terrorism.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I was doing, even though I worked on the B-2 stealth program, which right
Mhm.
now is like playing a huge part in the situation over in Iran.
Yeah.
At the time, the plane had just come online, which means that it was just commissioned to be utilized. So a lot of what we did was taking the plane to air shows and doing lots of dignitary work. I got to meet the president in '98. But that level of camaraderie, that level of interaction that a lot of Marines, Army men, and Navy guys, it's not necessarily the same on the flight line. It's a much different environment. My job was very similar to working at the airport. We were dealing with a really cool, expensive weapon system, and we were loading bombs onto it. But it was very similar to working at the airport. Like, I would drive into work, I would work for my 8 to 12 hours, I'd go home, I would hear the flight line, but I had friends, but that true camaraderie of like, this guy has my back, it's not necessarily the same because we weren't in a deployment unit that did the kind of things that those
Yeah.
guys. So I have not found very much intersection between jujitsu and the military. And I
Okay.
haven't really found very much intersection between jujitsu and the people that I work with. I will say that the biggest intersection is grappling at the gym is so beneficial to what I do for work because I work downtown, I work in
In
Old Town,
downtown, yeah.
I work in the hardest hit areas of the homeless community, and
Yeah.
often, not every day, but it's not outside the realm of possibility that people will become violent towards you.
Yeah.
Um, I think the biggest thing that I've learned in my 2 years of doing jujitsu, which has been so helpful to me at work and in life, is how tough I'm not. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1", 6'2". Um, Up until I started my weight loss journey, I was 272 pounds. You
Yeah.
know, it's rare that I ever found myself in a situation where someone was really testing me, but because I've always been bigger, and because I've been in a situation where just at first glance, most people really didn't want to, really try me or whatever, I
Mhm.
had this false sense that I was a lot tougher than I really am. And so
Yeah.
getting on the jujitsu mats, like, it's been such a death to my ego and such a huge wake up call. And it makes me, I'm not even joking. Like, I have goosebumps on my skin right now about to say this. It makes me think of how many times I put myself in situations where, by the grace of God, nothing happened
Yeah.
because I truly thought that I could, protect myself, or I truly thought that I was tough enough to deal with whatever situation I was in. And after getting choked to sleep by a 15-year-old, or, pulled by a flyweight female, it's like you go, huh, maybe I'm not as tough as I think I am. So that's probably been the biggest eye-opening realization, and it's
Yeah.
made me more humble. It really has.
And it's so hard too because when, especially with the sport of jujitsu, you get into it, and it's some people get into it because they're like, oh, I want to be healthier, I want to lose weight, I want to be stronger. So there is a when you first go in, especially, there's a lot of ego with it. Like, I for sure had that because I was like, oh, I'm the smallest one, so that also means I'm faster. Not until you get pinned down and can't move.
Right.
And that sucks. That
Fast, skilled, ultra heavyweight is a crazy thing to understand exists. You're like, "The hell is this?"
we're like, what in the world? And one of besides for my partner, one of my favorite training partners is Gio Valua. He's a big competitor and super big online as well. Funny dude.
Yeah.
And he's one of my favorite people to roll with because he honestly checks his ego so well. Like, we've always been, we're both blue belts. He should be a purple belt. That's what my thoughts and opinions. The way he rolls, I'm like, you're more than this. But he just knows how to. He's like, he constantly just thinks this is a learning environment.
Yeah.
I always have something to learn. And that's so hard to do. As you mentioned, like as a previous athlete, because all we were taught was we got to be the fastest one. We got to be, we just go, 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 go. And it's jujitsu is so many different things, whether if you look at it from the competitive side where you want to go, 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 or the hobbyist side where it's like, hey, I'm doing this to learn and all the technique and to slow down, you know, and that balance between the two is hard, especially when they're like, hey, we're running live clock, kill each other.
Yeah. And then, like, you know what's so crazy is like, I'll go into the gym and I'll be like, okay, here to focus on escapes today. And it's not about winning. I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to listen. I'm going to focus. And, I'm going to slow down today. I think it's time to slow down. And then you're like, oh, you want to roll? Yeah, sure. And you bump knuckles, and that person's like, ah! And then you're like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. And then before you know it, like the whole practice,
it just goes out the window.
You're dripping in sweat, and you're just like, oh yeah, I was gonna come in here and like flow roll today. Like, what the hell, you know?
It's hard. It's totally hard. I do that the worst with my partner, my fiance, Coach Ethan as well. He and that's something where we grew up together already in that competitive, you know, environment because we've known each other since 5th grade. You know, we're high school sweethearts.
Okay.
And so we've been partners for a very long time. And we're both competitive as hell, you know. And with him being a higher belt, he knows a lot more than I do. So when he's like, "Oh, I'll just grab you here," and I just flares, immediate flare up. Maybe it's the Latina in me or whatever. He jokes about that. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, it turns on," and then you're trying to rip my neck off, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, my bad." So
well, I truly value and appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on to my podcast. And we're trying to get more people here in the Portland area. We're trying to get more highlighting of people that are doing jiu-jitsu and more people at the lower belt ranks. I think that oftentimes, it's easy to overlook the white belt. It's easy to overlook the blue belts. And, we're the butt of the jokes for a lot of people, but at the same time, like your future black belt's going to be the person who's a current white belt or a current blue belt. So, they deserve their shine as well. And I know for me, and probably just like for you, this has not been an easy journey. And so when people are like, oh, the idea of jujitsu is that it's like karate or taekwondo. They're like, oh, you're a white belt. I'm like, bro, you have
how long you can be a white belt,
right? But you have no idea, bro.
There
are some guys out there that will kill you.
Yeah. No, I was a white belt for like, I want to say, because I was a 4-stripe white belt when I got my injury. So that delayed a little bit of it. And the minute I got even a little bit better and was back on the mat, my coach immediately handed me my blue belt. Because it was just time. I was doing well in competitions and stuff. And that was the one really kind of both blessing and curse, is that you don't always have to compete, but for a lot of gyms, especially if you don't have somebody in your weight class at your gym, competing is a really easy way to show what you can do. And then you realize all of the technique that you've learned works on somebody your size. It's the best thing ever. So, but no, thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate you having me come on.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you have a great day. Continued success with training and coaching, and congratulations on your marriage as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.